Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber, and thanks for joining us. Let's get started. A lot to discuss today. Okay, now's a good time just to take a step back and talk about where we are with this case. Joining me, two very special guests, attorney Terri Austin and Law&Crime legal analyst Matthew Mangino. It's great to have you both here. Terri, I want to start with you. Let's start with the state. Do you think they have a strong case? Let's not forget, in the first trial, 8-4 split in favor of acquittal. This is their second time around. They laid out their case yesterday. What do you think of it?
Jesse, in order for the prosecution to prove their case, they have to prove that there is no doubt or beyond a reasonable doubt. And what we saw in the first trial is that there is a lot of doubt here based on the evidence and based on the brutality of the scene. And I think they're going to have a difficult case here. And if it's similar to the first trial, I think we might actually get an acquittal or maybe even another hung jury. So we'll see. Okay,
well, you seem to think that the prosecution may have an uphill battle. Now, Matthew, let me ask you about the defense here. They've thrown out a lot, talking about gang members, talking about the cartel. They indicated that the man who allegedly hired the hit will testify and say that he did this. Based upon what they said yesterday, and they presented a very long opening statement, do you think they have a strong case, the defense?
Well, they have a stronger case than they did the last time that this case was tried. The drug lord who allegedly put out this hit refused to testify on the grounds that he could incriminate himself, but now has indicated that he would testify at this trial. Which I think, bolsters the defense. With an 8-4 verdict for acquittal, so to speak, in the first trial, and now a witness that wasn't available to you who's going to testify in the second trial, I think really makes the defense's position stronger and makes the case for the prosecution a lot more difficult.
Retrials are always interesting to see how different and similar they are from the first time around. Let's jump back live and we'll talk on the other side. Welcome back, everybody. We are live right now in the Henry Segura quadruple murder case that has just taken the nation by storm. This is the retrial of Segura. Before we jump live, which we're going to do in a minute, I want to just get some more perspective from my guests. Terri, interesting case because the defense opted for a 6-person jury. It's not uncommon. We see it in Florida trials. But a 6-person jury, what do you think the strategy was there for the defense?
Like you said, it's not uncommon in Florida. They have that option to go 12 or 6, and obviously they decided to do the 6. I think they're very confident. I think they believe they just need 6 people to make up a decision and not, sort of deliberate for way too long with 12 people. So I think it means they're fairly confident that they can get an acquittal here.
Yeah, based upon their opening statement, they seem pretty confident in the evidence that they believe that they have and can present. Matthew, let me ask you this, though. If we go back to the state, obviously they feel they had enough to retry this man who has been in jail for quite some time. This is actually the longest running murder trial in Tallahassee history. What do you think, in your opinion, is the strongest evidence that the state has? Is it the cell phone evidence? Is it the idea that he had a motive here? Was it the potential DNA match in the bathtub? What do you think?
Well, I think that their case is going to hinge on this motive and opportunity to carry it out. The idea that he owed $20,000 in child support and that he had access to the home, he had access to the victims. I don't think necessarily that the DNA evidence is that strong. I mean, we know he had a relationship with the victim. He had a child with the victim. He was a visitor to the home. So it's not, great evidence necessarily that there was DNA of his found in the home. But I think they're just going to try to pound away at this motive and opportunity and see if that carries the day for the prosecution.
And they also said that, his son Javante, when you talk about DNA, it would be possible there would be a similarity there, and perhaps that's what shows that it looks like Henry Segura's DNA was in that bathtub, but it might have been Javante's, and we'll learn more about that as well. Terri, I just want to jump on something that Matthew said about the motive here, and I thought the defense did a good job about this, talking about, oh, well, this is a guy that owed money. Clearly, he had a lot to gain. Well, the first thing the defense said in their opening statement was, well, you talk about all the things that happen when you owe child support. You lose these kinds of protections, and you kind of are not able to do certain things in society. Well, he already owed child support. He was already in that position with another woman. So it didn't really matter what happened to Brandy Peters. With her out of the way, he was still going to owe child support to somebody else. He was still going to be in the same position. So what do you think about the defense's argument there?
I thought it was a great opening argument, and I think the defendant himself, when he testified during his first trial, actually supported that argument. He has a prior relationship with a woman where he was married and he is, due to pay child support. So he's not paying there, or he's only paying a small amount, and he didn't kill his first wife or their child. And so I think it's a very good strategy. I think it just refutes the fact that there's a motive here. And so I think the defense is opening the door to saying there's something else going on. There's some other motive here. And in fact, we know that there is an alternate motive, that it was a drug cartel murder.
Okay, everybody. Well, we're going to jump live right now. This is Dr. Lisa Flanagan, and she is the medical examiner. I warn our viewers right now, this can be very difficult to listen to given the gruesome nature of these attacks and how young some of the victims were. Let's go back live. Okay, so the jury is seeing all of this right now. Terri, what is the impact that this is going to have on the jury? Does it favor the state's case, and in what way?
Well, Jesse, first I have to say you were absolutely right. This is gruesome. It does favor the state's case because the jury is getting impacted here. They are feeling the emotion of this. There are multiple wounds here. Obviously, the defense is going to argue that this wasn't the crime that the defendant committed, that someone else did this. Maybe they were torturing her. But as far as the impact on the jury, they are going to think this is a heinous crime. And in their minds, they do want to make sure someone pays for this.
Let me ask you, Matthew, given the brutal nature of this, given the fact that the victims were killed in various ways, doesn't it seem plausible? Doesn't it seem more plausible that there might have been more people here and not just one person, as the state says? The state has always said it's just been Segura. But given the details of this crime, it would seem to suggest that there were multiple people. And given how brutal it is this not a telltale sign of a cartel hit? I know we see this mostly in the media, and we see this mostly in movies, but it does happen in real life all the time. We hear about it. So how do you think the defense is going to characterize it? Do you think that this is a strong argument for them?
Well, certainly the defense is going to say that a heinous crime like this, the brutal punishment that was inflicted upon the victims in this case, would be indicative of maybe more than one person. You have blunt force trauma. You have, someone who's shot multiple times. You have another of the children victims shot. Two of them, drowned in the bathtub. So it could be indicative of more than one person. But also, there's a certain amount of brutality here that's often associated with people who have, more than just a motive as a hit, but some emotional involvement. Blunt force trauma. Brandy is beaten very severely, shot multiple times. The children are drowned in the bathtub. That sometimes is indicative of someone who has an intense emotional connection to this case, not your typical hit, as it might be characterized by the defense. So I think that this testimony is certainly going to, inflame the jury a bit because of the brutal nature of it. But it could go either way in terms of how what we're hearing about affects either the defense or the prosecution in this case.
Okay, some great points on both sides. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be live.